Yeah. Are you showing off your quarantine muscles?
Oh yes. No, I just my things are falling down. I'm just rearranging.
Oh, that works too. Yeah. So what's up, Angelina? Like you've been up to a lot during quarantine, if I'm not
I
mistaken.
guess. I don't know. What have I been doing? I forgot. Just moving.
Moving. Yeah. Where you guys? So you guys live out in Seattle now, and you're
Yep.
moving where?
So we were living kind of more downtown Seattle for
Okay.
the last 3 years, and it was
Hmm.
really nice. Or like I guess it was two and a half
Hmm.
years.
Hmm.
And then John had been living down there for a lot longer. Spent like his whole life in Seattle,
Mm.
but different neighborhoods. So we were just trying to research like what's the best neighborhood in Seattle to live in, like cost of living wise and
Hmm.
quality of life wise. And we
Hmm.
decided we wanted to get somewhere more secluded, away
Hmm.
from the COVID population density risk, and also just wanting a little more calm change of pace.
Cool. Cool. All right. So what area is this now then?
So there's a lot of suburbs in Seattle.
Hmm.
Like we both come from Gig Harbor, Washington, which is like an hour south.
Hmm.
I'm not like super familiar with the geography outside of those two areas, but
Okay.
Issaquah is I think east of
Yeah.
Seattle,
Okay.
maybe like 30 minutes. So it's still a comfortable commute. And
Hmm.
before we moved, John asked me, a lot like, are you sure you're going to be okay with this commute? Do you want to be like in Seattle? And I was like, you know what? I'm at the age now where I need the woods. So it is worth
Hmm.
it to commute to me.
Hmm. Cool. So like how close are y'all to the forest now? Are y'all like close to like a state park or anything? Like what y'all got?
Yeah, the apartment complex is really cool. It's like built on a park,
Hmm.
basically. There's a forest belt, and then there's also, I think they call it the pea patch, and it's probably like 50 square miles or more of just parks everywhere.
Uh-huh. So are you trying to tell me that y'all just became squatters or?
No, I mean, I wish we didn't have to pay rent. It's very pricey.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even when you're in the suburbs, I couldn't believe the price tags out here, and it's just
Mm.
insane.
Yeah. So you missed the woodlands.
Well, yeah, I've always lived pretty rural areas,
Hmm.
except for my time in college, where I lived
Hmm.
in like the university district in Seattle. It's really alive and exhilarating and so much fun when you're like an 18 to 22-year-old.
Hmm.
And then I moved to Japan right away, and
Hmm.
it was really rural. As you know, we come from the same town in Japan. You were in Nihama though. I was in Saijo.
Yeah. Yeah. But our town's buddied up a lot.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, just neighbor towns and
Hmm.
gosh, just absolutely nothing going on out there, but
Right.
an amazing magical
Yeah.
forest energy and
Yeah.
really nice people and a really authentically carefree, like relaxing, like oasis.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And you do cosplay too, right? Like have you been keeping up with that or?
Yeah, in Japan, it was so funny how I got to like dress up almost, every month or two, like
Hmm.
whatever I wanted to do, like for just my personal photography, or if I was getting, a little side gig to do
Hmm.
kimono modeling. It was
Hmm.
so much fun, and I missed it so much that when I got back to America, I started cosplaying a little bit because working in video games, you're always at conventions, and
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
was my favorite thing to take video and pictures of was the cosplayers, and I did it a little bit.
Hmm. Hmm.
I just went to one convention in 2007 or 8, I think.
Oh,
It
what
was
was
like
that called?
SakuraCon in Seattle was my first
Oh,
one,
Sakura.
and I did dress up for that, and it was so much fun. And
Yes.
gosh, I remember it was weird back then, though. People would approach you and ask to take your picture, and you're like, "This is my first time doing this. I don't even know, but like, I'll just say yes to like not make it awkward."
If
But
I'm wearing a costume that elaborate, that is probably the least weird thing I'm thinking. That's so
yeah,
cool though. Yeah.
super fun, super good time, good memories.
Yeah.
And then in Japan, they don't have conventions in Saijo or in Nihama, certainly,
Right.
or
Yeah,
you
there
know,
was surprisingly little cosplay. I mean, even in our area. Like actually the coolest thing I saw was that when Halloween came to Japan, like my third year there, and then all of a sudden you started seeing them in the parks
it
dressed
caught
up
on.
in costumes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
And I wonder if the kids nowadays out in Japan are cosplaying, because it is funny how it's such a recent like online and cultural revolution, and everyone's getting into it because it's so much fun, and everyone loves to like
Mm-hmm.
daydream about being a different personality or person for a moment, and it just
Yeah.
allows you to, and with the TikTok videos and
Mm-hmm.
being able to express yourself like theatrically, doing little skits, it's like, why not if you're locked up at quarantine? Just do whatever you want to make yourself feel free and creative for a
Mm-hmm.
moment.
Right. Yeah. So let's roll into the reason why we've all gathered onto our downloaded Zoom chats, spiritual landscapes.
Oh my gosh, I forgot that's why we were here for a moment.
Then I did my job. Like you can never go on to the subconscious matters too bluntly, but here we are. So the name of the podcast is Terraforming the Subconscious, and the question we ask here is, have you ever thought of your soul as a place? What might your spiritual landscape look like? And then we just explore that together. So Angelina, had you ever thought of your soul as a place before this podcast?
I I think I had done a guided meditation where it prompted you to think of yourself in a forest, and I kind of zone in and out when I'm doing those things, so I don't always remember everything. But I think the gist was you're supposed to let
Uh-huh.
different animals that you encountered in the forest kind of guide you towards a more peaceful, like meditative state.
Oh, cool, cool. So animals were like these, archetypes and kind of deals. Did you do that in Japan? Where was this meditation? Because there's some pretty dark forests in Japan.
No, I think I started doing meditation after I first went to therapy
Okay.
in,
Mm-hmm.
like, gosh, that was a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
Like 5 years ago now,
Okay.
maybe.
Okay.
So it was kind of just like, well, if you want to really work on yourself,
Mm-hmm.
just meditate. And it's always been like a constant struggle for me to be disciplined enough to do that. But I
Mm-hmm.
try sometimes, and sometimes it's a lot easier when you put on like a YouTube video that's a guided one.
What was your approach to meditation before, typically?
I hadn't really thought about it
Mm-hmm.
um, prior to that. I kind of just thought it was like yoga, I
Okay.
guess.
So,
I didn't have like the deeper understanding of what it meant to, like, why you were doing it.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So is this the kind of meditation where you're trying to shut off your mind, not see anything, not think anything?
Yeah, I guess that I would call that like
Mm-hmm.
the true meditation is when you're trying to achieve that.
Mm-hmm. And you tried this visual meditation where it was a guided meditation through a forest and.
Yeah, that's kind of like prescriptive, like
Mm-hmm.
therapeutic
Mm-hmm.
meditation where you're just trying to feel better.
Mm-hmm. But it didn't feel authentic to you. It didn't. Does your
Oh
spiritual?
no, I mean it
Mhm.
was great. Like using it for a different purpose.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it was
Cool.
like a relaxation meditation.
Yeah. Okay. So just relaxation. And well, I guess I can go two roads here. Either ask you more about that meditation and what you saw there, or if we talk about spiritual landscapes now, if other images or places or even personas come to mind.
Yeah, there was that comparison we drew in our earlier conversations,
Mm.
prior to today's meeting, where we were talking about different cultural phenomenons where people are asked to design certain islands.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Not going to name any names, but there is a certain island that I've been working on for the past month or so, 2 months, I guess now it's been.
Oh, really?
So you have to design a complete
Mm-hmm.
city like for
Mm-hmm.
yourself, and you have complete like creative control over that, like
Mm-hmm.
from the terraforming, which is why I asked you, like, were you inspired by that game to
Um,
name your podcast?
are you talking about Animal Crossing?
Yeah, because terraforming is a
Yeah.
tool that you get in the game.
Okay. See, I haven't played Animal Crossing. Like I've seen memes and stuff. So yeah, you have to tell me about it. So does your island feel like Animal Crossing, or this is the island that you're building?
So you just arrive on an island and you get basically like trees and sticks and rocks, and you have to put stuff together from scratch, and then you have like a tent, but then you graduate to like a house, and you get ultimately a 6 or 7 room house, I guess.
Hmm.
So you can decorate the rooms however you want, and you get like furniture drops and decoration things like wallpaper, flooring. So all of the stylistic choices are in your hands,
Mm.
depending on like how hard you work in the game to get all those drops too.
Oh,
Like
wow.
you need to put in a lot of time to get all the items,
Hmm.
or you can buy them on eBay.
Hmm. So that's what, like, when IKEA starts doing like drone deliveries is like furniture drops, and then I stare up at the sky one day and just getting hit in the head with a chair. I don't know.
Yeah, your apartment looks really cute. I like the brick and the industrial look to it.
Yeah, this is well, I showed you the window, but yeah, this is yeah, me
Good
and
design choices.
yeah, it suits us very well. Minimal. Cool. So it's like is so that's your spiritual landscape is the Animal Crossing island that you're on or building?
I would just say that was the first time I was given the
Uh,
kind of request to like,
uh,
oh, here's this clay,
mhm.
mold it however you like. Like, what
Cool.
would your town look like?
Cool.
And I was like, oh, well, I'm just kind of gravitating to all of the Japanese items, like the fountains and the rocks formations and the sakura blossom items.
Hmm.
Like, those were some of the most exciting items in the game for me. Because I was like, oh my God, I haven't seen this stuff since, Hanami season.
Right.
Gosh.
Yeah. So build me a visual picture of the general layout of your what your island, I guess, started from or evolved into.
Yeah, so basically the first thing I did was just plant flowers everywhere. I
Okay.
thought I thought that was I didn't read anything about the game as much as I could. I just wanted like I had heard from other people that it's the kind of game that you just play for yourself. And if you play for anyone other than yourself, then you're missing the point of this game.
Mm.
And
Mm.
quarantine had just started and I wasn't in the best place, like for sure, like mentally. um
Mm.
I just gotten back from like an international trip. I didn't know like how bad everything was. Like I got back into America before all the panicking happened,
Mm.
like,
Okay. Was it around January?
but maybe a couple weeks before,
Yeah.
in like March.
Yeah. Okay. March. Okay.
Yeah, so really just shook up, like
Mhm.
on my last like frayed nerve. And John bought me the game and gave me his Switch, and I hadn't even sat down to play a game in a really long time because I had been working so much, like
Mm.
just didn't have a life.
Mm.
And so this was like my first time where, I didn't have a job because COVID happened. I didn't have anything to do, and I was given this like blank clay, and I just put together kind of like a Japanese inspired island, and it became like this really tranquil, happy place full of flowers
Cool.
and rare flowers because I like to crossbreed the
Wow. So
special ones.
you built your island kind of in the shape of Japan, and are the flowers like kind of unique to Japan?
No, it's just you get a lot of Japanese inspired items because Animal Crossing is made by Nintendo, which is a Japanese
Mhm.
company, so they're just making a cute nod to all things Japanese. Like you can get a kotatsu in the game, you get like antique furniture, like circular, like
Mhm.
beautiful, like Kyoto style bookshelves, things like
Mhm.
that.
Cool. What color are the flowers there? Are they just multicolored?
So you can get the more rare flowers are purple or black or gold.
Okay.
Gold flowers, you have to get special tools to like water them. Like you need a gold watering can to get gold flowers.
Oh, interesting. Cool. Okay. So you got this island. It felt kind of like Japan, and the first thing you did was plant flowers. What did you do next?
Um, I guess then I got super into the furniture stuff
Okay.
where I was like, wow, I've never been able to design like a whole home for myself, and
Mm.
as a broke millennial, that's your like dream, right? Is having your own space and and I was like, wow, in the game, I
Mhm.
got everything. I've paid off my home. I've paid off my home loan. I have a 6 bedroom house, and I just started playing. Like I got really into designing everything. And the awesome thing about this game too is it brings people together like crazy. Like I had just made a couple posts on Twitter about
Mm.
like first I was lamenting that I didn't have bamboo because I didn't understand that I could just go to different islands and get bamboo because like I said I was just doing it myself.
Mhm.
So and then people were like, "Oh, you idiot, like I'll give you some bamboo, come to my island." So I was like, "Okay, I'm just going to go to this stranger's island on the internet. Like I don't know what's going to happen." But it's fun to play with
Does
people.
does it still feel like that? Stranger danger, even in Animal Crossing? Like,
Well, you put a lot of trust out there when you do like hop on a Discord call with a new friend to play a
Oh,
game.
so it requires like real world contact in order to collaborate.
Sometimes, yeah, I mean it's way easier to
Mm.
play a game on Discord. It's almost impossible to play some games without talking.
Wow. See, I wasn't aware of all that. I've seen all the videos where the funny people are like somebody's trying to hit a spider or something, and the other person
Yeah,
running in circles with the net. I don't know. That that's
there's a
a
whole other side to it.
wow. Wow, you're just like opening my eyes to.
So yeah, I would get all these like contributions from like lovely friends and internet strangers and new friends,
Mhm,
and people would kind of get a sense of what I was going for in my design on my island. And
mhm.
I wasn't trying to look at other people's creations online specifically so that it could be an organically like my vision,
Cool.
even if it was super wabi-sabi, just like all over the place, a mess.
Mhm.
I wanted it to be like me creating it and not trying to copy anything.
Cool. So you describe your island as having a kind of Angelina wabi-sabi kind of vibe to it?
Yeah, I'm kind of a mess and just all over the place, and my mind feels just like a
Mhm.
tangle of chords or strings that I'm eternally trying to unravel because I need that one chord in there for something, but I have to untangle a bunch of other stuff before I can get to it.
Interesting. Well, real quick, can you describe what wabi-sabi means to you or to us, maybe for people that never heard of it?
Yes, I loved this. I could talk about this all day. It's just my favorite.
Yeah.
And I first fell in love with the concept about Japanese pottery
Hmm.
because I loved their pottery style and their ceramics are so just knobbly and fun, and just it's meant to look as though it just fell into place that way, but it's obviously super intentional.
Hmm.
But it's like embracing the art of imperfection is the
Yeah,
philosophy.
yeah. The definition I'd kind of run
Or
with
or that like
action of.
ugly or imperfect things are beautiful.
Hmm. Okay, so it is like that. Cool. And so you described your.
So what did you say your definition was?
Oh, well, the general definition or that I'd kind of run with is the perfection of imperfection, like that. So it's the same idea, right? Okay, cool. So you described your island as having a very Angelina, like wabi sabi kind of vibe. Like what about your island gives it that?
Well, I didn't make any paved roads or fences yet,
Hmm.
and I had kind of thought that that was what you needed to do in order to get like a 5-star rating on the island or whatever, like the highest rating. You need things to be like tidy, like the flower gardens have to be like all fenced in. A lot of people just have like very designated areas that are all fenced and just everything is sectioned, compartmentalized,
Interesting.
ordered, neat,
Interesting.
labeled.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
So,
I just kind of throw things around. But
uh-huh.
like in a just like a fenceless kind of way. Like there's still like a flower area or a cafe area or like a picnic nook.
It's like aesthetic, but it's like a woodland, like there's a bit of wilderness there.
I really wanted it to be like a Japanese onsen, like forest oasis.
Very cool. Very good. Did you achieve that look now, or is it still?
I did lose my steam on the game for a while. I haven't been working on it lately. I've been having a bunch of exciting interviews and a lot of really cool stuff in
Previous
the
one?
real world going on. Finally, with COVID calming down.
Yeah, very cool. And you said something. You threw out something that interested me. You described your mind as being a tangle of chords, and like you're trying to find you grab the right one, but then you got to untangle it from the other ones. Can you like talk about that more?
Yeah, so like this shows, I think, kind of you're trying to not only talk about like consciousness, but also probably delving into people's spiritual progressions. And obviously, like we are learning what spiritual progression means to us, like
Mm-hmm.
every year or every several years, we have these pensive moments where we're like, what am I doing?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or who am I? Like, what is my contribution? Like, what have I affected in
Mm-hmm.
my life?
Mm-hmm.
And what does it mean? And does it mean anything? And like, why am I meditating? What am I trying to feel?
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So it's because that image really struck me. It really struck me. Like, can you?
Yes.
Mhm.
So when I'm talking about that metaphor, it's like the chords are all things I want to achieve and I want to do, and I'm like so driven and so passionate about like doing, and I'm so committed to like so many things in my mind, like that I really, really want to do. But there's always kind of these like obstacles, like, well, you can't do this before you do this, and you can't do that before you do that. So you have to do that before you can do this. And that involves like a ton of tedious, like really frustrating stuff. So it's like, do all that frustrating stuff, and then you can do the things that you're super passionate about. So
Mm-hmm.
every day is kind of a struggle of like, do I take shortcuts and like hop that, or like do I rip those chords out even if they get damaged in the process because I just want to do it,
Mm-hmm. Do
quickly
those
because
feel,
I am so impatient.
do those feel like authentic actions that like affect your visual image, or does your visual image, like even if you ripped the chords or something, does it feel like it just kind of the next day it's like the same?
I've actually never even like said that out loud or even thought that image before. It just kind of came to me, but
Mm-hmm.
I do think like I make rash choices sometimes, and
Okay.
I need to be like definitely more methodical and more disciplined.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, because it didn't feel like you'd ever said that before, but it just there felt like so much authenticity there to that image that
Yeah.
really struck me as
It's
interesting.
frustrating, it's like it doesn't bring me any like happiness to even think about it or like acknowledge it. It's like I'm supposed to just pretend like
Hmm.
I'm not feeling that frustration all the time.
Hmm. Hmm. But
Giving power to more positive feelings is
mhm,
important.
mhm. But it's like if we held that image in our minds, and if our instinct is to like rip the chords, or if our instinct is to kind of just like I don't know, like is there any kind of action that we could imagine that could kind of like tease them apart at all, or is there like
You
a
just
certain
have to be the monk. You have to just sit cross-legged and patiently and calmly accept your fate of untangling
the
Christmas
chord?
lights.
Like, do you feel like that if you can't untangle the chords with your hands, do you almost feel like that if you were able to, because you've thrown out the idea of like easing into relaxation or kind of meditation, that is like your heart kind of relaxes, it eases the chords into untangledness or something, like I don't know.
Yeah,
uh,
I haven't been doing a lot of that, so that's something I could definitely work on. And
Interesting.
that's something, yeah, I could definitely apply from today's session.
So cool though, because like we came in through it through the lens of wanting to you felt this draw to woodland spaces and the wilderness, and then you carried that even into the video game of Animal Crossing, and the expression you and the desire and hope that you had for your island was so against the grain of the game's ratings and everything else. And then here we are at this image of chords, and it's like that feels like very much like a core image behind all of this stuff, and it's really cool. It's really cool.
Yeah, I think a lot of people struggle to understand their place in the world and like what are we doing, especially with everything going on, and just being able to create a safe space for yourself where you're like, you know what, it would be nice to have a fountain over here and just look at the stars and set up your telescope and invite your friends over to your island and you all just catch shooting star fragments together and it's a nice time.
Yeah, but it's like we can't do that wholeheartedly if in the back of our mind we got this like chords or something. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Yeah.
interesting. It's really cool. Um,
Be cool to see like a mass meditation movement surrounding everything that's going on, both, like people should really meditate on and focus on what they want. Like, do we all want reform, like for frustrating systems, the chords that we can't untangle? Like, are we going to just throw that bundle of chords out and, just get a new set of chords and make, practice cable management?
be the Cox cable girl, or like whatever. But honestly, it's really interesting that you said that, because that is a large part of why I want to start this podcast, because I stumbled onto my image accidentally. It was a desert. It made sense why it was a desert, and my knowing why it was a desert, the efforts to change myself and terraform my desert and experience personal growth. It's like when I realized that process, it's like, okay, I want to know other people deeply. I want to know how they can, become the best version of themselves, and how they can, in this case, maybe untangle their cords and like see what happens on the other side of that image. Because I think a lot of us, like, even the efforts to meditate become a kind of repression, because we're trying to force ourselves to think of nothing. But in the nothingness, here, this image of chords, like, just kind of burst onto the scene. And I think I don't know, I don't want to put too much into this, or I'm talking way longer than I want to be. But, like, that's why I got interested to start this podcast, to say, well, if this is a image very mysteriously at your core, like, what if we played with that image and use that as a kind of grounds for
Yeah,
why.
and you creating too is your way of grasping an
Yeah.
untangled cord,
Yeah.
and suddenly one of the things in your life is going exactly how you want it to go, which is
Hmm.
so important.
Hmm.
Finding those moments where like everything that you have done in your day is exactly what you wanted to do,
Hmm.
and not feeling like dissatisfied or disappointed or like you could have done more, like feeling like you really did everything you wanted to do and
Hmm.
set out to do.
Yeah, or at least a negotiation with, well, at least the things I can control are done the way that, get my libido and my energy and my efforts running at 100, but then accept making peace with things I can't control. It's really fascinating. I love that you stumbled onto this image, and then the route that we got there. Like, is there any, I know that you just thought of this image, but is there any action in your life that feels like it kind of relates to being able to untangle them or loosen them in any way?
Um, yeah, I do think that a lot of times with the things that I would want to do to like create my ideal like perfect day, I
Mm-hmm.
really hinge on other people. Like, oh, if only my friend would plan to go like
Mm-hmm.
on this waterfall hike with me or whatever, or
Mm-hmm.
and you know, a lot of times it's me too, like fighting my own,
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I have other things going on and not prioritizing what
Mm-hmm.
I really want to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so just being more independent and taking the reins on, like, instead of waiting for life to happen to you, like happen
Okay.
yourself. Yeah.
Can you describe to me, as much as you can, the chords that you're seeing, and if there's anything around them?
Um, it was kind of a very like two-dimensional metaphor where like the words and the chords were kind of one and the same, and
Mm-hmm.
the concept of feeling like you can't do something because you just have to sit and
Mm-hmm.
untangle stuff for a while
Mm-hmm.
and feel kind of punished or downtrodden, or like I'm not getting what I want,
Mm-hmm.
like,
Mm-hmm.
and feeling sorry for myself, like not feeling that way and just
Mm-hmm.
like finding that shortcut or just sitting there and untangling them or just like get it done, like no feeling bad for yourself about it, just do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm. So it feels like,
It's weird. It's
yeah,
like a hard thing to explain, like,
yeah,
but
yeah, you're cool.
how
And
I've been feeling a lot in quarantine is like I make so many excuses for why I can't do things that I know would ultimately create my spiritual like progression.
Yeah, and I felt the same way, and that's also why I'm on this, journey of, trying to reach out to other people and ask about their spiritual metaphor, and because I've been, and I am still like that too, now, and there's always tangles and hookups that, I'm still if I knew how to do better, it's like I'd already be doing that, hopefully, but it's the stuff that I don't know, my tangles I don't know. Do you feel like these chords are supposed to plug into anything in particular, or like different?
I think probably like you're saying, like learning the answers to the questions that you have, like, or learning how to do the things that you want to do, like the skills you don't have yet, like the skills you want to acquire but haven't yet.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, we always used to study like Japanese when we lived in Japan. We kind of had this ongoing sense of contentment from continuous education.
Mm-hmm.
And now as an adult, without that constant growth around me, being back in Washington, it's just a lot of different kind of absorption of energy, of being. And I want to definitely like learn more about the world around me. And I don't even know like what I want to learn yet, but I want to learn how to do more.
Cool. And when you say there are things that you'd want to learn or do more or have certain goals in mind, what are there certain goals that come to mind kind of immediately, or things that you want to get into more immediately?
Yeah, I definitely have, my career goals in video games. They're both like kind of fun and aspirational. And then I guess my personal goals would be to make more time for nature stuff and like
Mhm.
really committing time to planning more epic trips because I feel like
Very
it
cool.
was always just in our backyard. In Japan, we could have epic trips, no problem on the weekend, every weekend. You lived at the base of, beautiful valley,
Mm-hmm.
the mine was so beautiful and so much like wildlife. Like you just never had to plan your next adventure. The adventures would happen to you.
Yeah.
And
So.
I don't know what is up with America. I don't know, but like there's just not as much magic just happening to you.
Uh-huh.
It's just, yeah, it's been a long 2.5 years here where I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I want magic.
Mm-hmm.
Where's that little like temple nook around the corner? Where's that like little bamboo grove, or where's that um just random waterfall that you just stumble upon? Because like the topography out here is even like so similar, but I just feel like the
Mm-hmm.
design of the landscape,
Mm-hmm.
terraforming the subconscious of the area,
Uh-huh.
it's just
Yeah.
there's so much to environment affecting human psyche too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that is a amazing point, and that's interesting. So you feel like in Japan there was this kind of magic, even though you said that the landscapes could be kind of similar, but in Japan you felt this kind of magic, whereas in America it just feels like missing.
The stonework, the temples, the whimsy, the
Mm-hmm.
just a human expression of thousands of years of culminating of one aesthetic, not committing to an individual's, flight, a fancy,
Uh-huh.
even though they did have some like abhorrent public
Uh-huh.
sculptures in the downtown area in different cities.
So do you feel like Japan was almost has this feeling of they were able to build something lasting and a little bit of a cohesive feeling where it had room for everybody's little,
Yeah, in the countryside, like everyone had the same kind of like roofs,
Mhm.
there was just a general cohesion to the look of everything.
Interesting. And it sounds very much like the feeling that you'd want to recapture with either moving to the woodlands or even in designing your Animal Crossing island, that searching for that feeling of, you know.
Yeah, I actually graduated from designing spaces in Animal Crossing to my own space, and because we're, working from home and being at home so much, I've really thought about the psychological,
Mhm.
effect of
Mhm.
environment, and
Cool.
I'm trying to design like the most zen, and magical space of all time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know you're a very magical being. I that feeling when I see your Instagram and your pics, and just your general vibe. What kind of changes are you thinking for your room and your space?
A lot of interior design inspired by the amazing talented artists at Animal Crossing. They have so much unique, like
Mhm.
they just really nail a certain
Mhm.
style.
Mhm.
So I've gotten a bunch of like sample photos, and I'm basically yeah, commissioning sculptures that are as close to or resemble the sculptures in Animal Crossing, or the furniture items, like just trying to match everything perfectly and
Mhm.
adding my own little flair and twist here and there. But it's going to be cool, and it's fun to be excited to be in the space you're in, for
Yeah.
everything to look exactly how you like it.
Yeah. And maybe that's the first chord untangling right there. You get
Yeah.
your that mirror of expression shining back at you, and then like you have more feeling of control and energy and libido to go knock out these other problems that, well, they're more boring. But that's really cool. Yeah, and I hope you show me that process of the room transformation, and keep in touch with how that's going for you and your move. Did you enjoy hanging out and chatting, shooting the breeze on this podcast?
Oh yeah, that was really fun. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and I really enjoyed the surprising twists and spins and places and the amount of ground you were able to cover in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, I was pretty nervous about, I always try to mentally organize where I'm trying to go, but then I kind of just give up and I'm like, forget it. Even if it comes out as dull in certain moments, we'll just edit that out and we'll put in all the zesty things.
Yeah, but your intro, was, you know, was so authentic, especially
Thank you.
the second
I'm trying to
half.
communicate I think we all repress ourselves and it's not doing anyone any favors.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And
We all
that's
need to speak
where,
our truth.
yeah, and that's where, this podcast has kind of become surprisingly interesting and surprisingly, like, almost, not to say efficient, but like, people wind up expressing their most authentic self with this kind of playful imaginal sandbox. And the even people that or thought you knew well or didn't know, it's like them so well now, and how to, like, really talk and relate, encourage them, or check in with them, like, it's been so cool. So I really appreciate your time. I know you're busy. And thank you for everything you've been teaching me.
Oh yeah, of course. Thank you so much and have a great day. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, catch it.